So training paths, I'll be followed by Master Sergeant Riddick. And see Ted.
All right, so as he alluded to, Master Sergeant Riddick, I'm from the Cyber Training and Education Directorate, which we handle all of the training for pretty much all of our cyber and electromagnetic cohorts. If you don't mind, next slide, please. So the Army in general focuses on an experiential learning model. The cyber school has taken it one step further, and we go with the adult learning model. The difference is with the experiential learning model, it focuses on giving somebody a concrete experience in order to be able to tie their learning to that, remember it down the future, in the future. Where with the adult learning model, we focus on giving them point A and point Z, and then they get to figure out how to get from point A to point Z with guidance, asking questions, research, all those good things, right? So kind of a self-learning path. So that's the adult learning model. We focus on the technologies rather than the buttonology, meaning that we aren't beholding ourselves to a particular set of software. We're not beholding to a particular set of rules. As an example, you can go open up a command line in a PowerShell. You can run netstat in one and get net TCP connection in another. If you get the right answer, that's all we really worry about, right? How do you get from point A to point Z is on you, but as long as you get the right answer, what we're looking for, and it's done appropriately, that's what we're looking for. Experiential credit, as he alluded to earlier, there's lots of things that we're trying to do inside of cyber that allow us to be able to recruit the best and brightest without necessarily having to have them cover everything. So we have a constructive credit review board. What that means is that, let's say you're out there in the force already and you've done some type of exercise, you've done a certain training, you've done C+ training in college. You submit forth a packet with all of those information, all the information that you want us to consider, and then we will give you course credit for the block that specifically correlates to. So as I said earlier, the C+ might directly go into programming because we do programming and scripting. So it's a way for us to be able to give you credit without having you go through it. When you do the course credit review, basically what that means is you're still going to be stuck at the school, but you're going to have to submit an alternate learning path. Which means that you're going to go out, you're going to do a little, if you get that credit, you're going to go out, you're going to do a little bit of research prior to, you're going to say, hey, this is what I want to go do for the school, or I want to go do a 2-week PMP boot camp. Most likely the school will wind up paying for that as well. And also paying for you to sit for the certification. If you're going to do a certification, the due out at the end of that alternate learning path is any particular certification that you were taking that training for. So if you were doing Net Plus, Sec Plus, PMP, any of those, we would expect you to provide that cert showing that you passed at the end of that alternate study path. And then you would come back into the class where you didn't have course credit for, and then ultimately graduate with everybody in your class. So that's great. He also talked about the direct commissioning program earlier. So one of the unique things about that is that we bring these officers in. They wind up having to go through something we call CIUC, Cyber Officers Orientations course, which is a mix of both a little bit of Captain's Career course and a lot of BOLIC material that goes in there, because obviously we're bringing these civilians and younger soldiers, whether they be warrant officer or enlisted, into the officer fold. So they need some training on how to be officers, what it means, all the planning considerations, all that kind of good stuff. So that's part of what they get to learn. Then other responsibilities, we also have the responsibility to maintain PME. The majority of the PME, primary military education, that's everything that's after your initial training. So you come in, you go to AIT, or you go to WOBIC, or you'll go to BOLIC. All of those are the initial military training for each of our cohorts. And then we have PME after that, primary military education, which is, just think of it as our advanced training continuing forward, and what it is that we as a force say that we need. So we have the majority of the PME inside of the cyber school. The ones that we don't are the ILE, which is primarily for our majors, getting ready to become lieutenant colonels. And we don't have the 17 Charlie, 17 Echo SLC and ALCs. Those exist in the NCO Academy, but we still have the responsibility to ensure that POI is correct, and then we certify them to teach the POI, Program of Instruction. Trying to make sure I spell out all the acronyms for everybody. All right, and then we have functional training. So unique here also is that we do a lot of functional training. We can consider them something kind of like ASI, additional skill identifiers or special qualification identifiers, which means that there are additional training outside of what the Army normally gives you, that the Army has said that there is enough of a need to have a specific program of instruction that trains those knowledge, skills, and attributes. An example of that, so he talked about the Cyber Operations Planner. So we actually have a course that specifically teaches you how to be a Cyber Operations Planner. It's called COPSI. So Cyber Operations Planners course, really unique in our naming. We also have a Cyber Effects Enabling Activities course, which is SEAC. We also have ICS SCADA courses getting ready to come online. He also talked about operators. If you saw, we go back a couple slides, don't really do it. You'll see something up there called operator. We train T10 basic operator. So we train those. We're getting ready to come out with a course called Advanced Operators course, which obviously that's advanced for the T10 BOC. That's coming out soon. So any questions on this particular slide? All right, next slide, please. All right, so right here you'll see the 17 Charlie pipeline. So there's a phase one that's roughly 722 hours. It used to be down in Pensacola. It was called JCAC. So there's multiple reasons that we did this. We moved it from Pensacola to Fort Gordon for two main purposes. One is JCAC focused on making analysts. It was very analytical focus, and not to say that that's not something that we don't want, but we felt that we could train it in a better way, right, to the degree that we needed it. It still had its roots in a lot of signals intelligence type training, if you will, analytics, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted to go away from that. And then two, it also saved the Army from having a PCS, saved the Army a lot of money because we didn't have to PCS people to JCAC, Pensacola, and then PCS them up here to Fort Gordon. You had to PCS them again within a year, right? So that's one of the reasons that we did that. Then there's phase two, focuses a lot on what we believe to be the basics to be inside of our branch, right? What are the basic knowledge, skills, and attributes that we need to be inside of our branch? So one of the things that you're going to see multiple times on these slides when it specifically comes to cyber-focused personnel is you'll see something called CCTC, which is the Cyber Common Technical Course, or CORE. And that is broken down into three different phases itself. So there's an OS course module. It's roughly 2 weeks. There's another networking module that's roughly 2 weeks, and then there is a security concepts module that is another 2 weeks, and that's going to be in all of so the 17 alphas are going to get it, the 170 alphas are going to get it. So that's one of the basic ones. We also have information warfare, which is basically our way of being able to train our soldiers to understand what to expect whenever they go forth into the operational force, so that way they're appropriately primed for what they're getting into, because there's a lot of things that we can do. There's a lot of formations out there that are growing, and there's a lot of formations that we're still filling out. OCO analyst, that focuses on particularly the offensive side, and then we have cyberspace response assessment. You'll see that is roughly a 2-week module inside of both the 17 Alpha and 17 Charlie course that assesses their ability to take the knowledge that they have and apply it to different mission sets, and that is a go or no-go type module. Very important. And then down here you have your 17 Echoes. That's 1,088 hours of training, significantly long training. They do a lot of RF fundamentals. They do a lot of mathematics. If that's your boat, then I suggest you get on it. That, as he's talked about a couple of times, that's actually getting ready to explode. He said that we're getting ready to increase the number of billets. Well, yes, that is true, but it's going to significantly grow on the EW side, the electromagnetic warfare side. The reason being is because we're going to send EW soldiers out to a lot of the divisional SEMA elements, right? So there's divisions, BCTs. There's also multi-domain operations or task force, right? And we're going to wind up with a lot of EW people in there, and then 17 Charlie will grow alongside of that, not as at large a pace as the EW side will. So they're expecting significant growth over the next couple of years. Next slide. So right here we have the 170 Alpha. You can see it's 745 hours. So one thing that was in particular we took into focus with the 170 Alpha is we understood that not everybody that we're assessing to come into 170 Alpha is going to be a former 17 Charlie, right? And so we did our best to ensure that it covers the basics of everything that a 17 Charlie would be expected to know, but also at a faster pace. So they're expected to pick it up quicker. So that's also an important concept as we go forward too. You also have the 170 Bravo here. The feeder MOS for that is 17 Echo, and others, but primarily 17 Echoes is what we generally expect. But it still goes over all of the same material, just at a faster pace. That's the reason it's considered intermediate. And down here we have the 170 Delta. So the 170 Delta, this came out of 780th. So 780th MI Brigade up north, they came up with something called the Developer. They partnered with University of Maryland, Baltimore College back in the day, and they had a particular curriculum. They go through everything from the PowerShell, C++, Python, and what's the other one? I forget the other one. They go through one other one, and they build programs from beginning to end. And as you can see, it's 72 weeks, over a year, right? 72 weeks of training to be able to go out of that. One of the key things with them is they're going to give you an exam. During that exam, towards the end, it can certify you. It says that you're trained to be a developer, but when you get to the operational force, you still have to potentially take another one called the BSLE, which certifies you to be a developer for whatever unit you're going to, right? So there's important concepts to understand there as well. Does anybody have any questions on any of these cohorts? Going once, going twice. Next slide. So we have the 17 alphas. 17 alphas. So this is generally what we consider to be the basic officer course, right? As it mentions, we have the MDO capstone, which is basically the same thing as CISRA. We've just adapted it so that it's more officer-like, more exhibiting the planning aspects, the staffing X's, all of those things. It's designed more along those lines. You'll also see OIE 101, which is the information course. We also talked about COPSI is in there. We have CCNA, CISP that are built in. I believe CISP is going to be coming out soon, and we're going to switch that down to the captain's career course, primarily because we realize that the 17 alphas that are coming in for BOLC most likely don't have the requisite time to apply to get their CISP, right? So we're going to move it down in order to be able to ensure that they can get the certificate, which is what most people are after, right? Then we also have a scripting module, and we also have that CCTC, the Cybercomic Technical Core module that we were talking about is considered the baseline. Well, something that's unique about the way we have things designed also is that in general, you have to be a 17 alpha before we're going to let you go to 17 Bravo. So you have to be specifically assessed. I don't know the words assessed. You have to be specifically designated to be going to 17 Bravo, right? Sometimes we can allow you to go either way. We can allow you to do Bravo first and Alpha. Situation is completely dependent upon your current knowledge, skills, and attributes. We have down here. We also have the 17 Delta. 17 Delta, also 47 weeks. You'll see that it's not as in-depth as the 170 Delta because 170 Delta is expected to be our subject matter experts on all things development, right? Any questions on the officer cohort? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. To be assessed to the 17 Bravo, once you completed the 17 Alpha, what will you need to be a 17 Bravo? Is it just the completion of the 17 Alpha?
So the question was what do you need to be assessed to be able to go to the 17 Bravo? So there are lots of factors in that, right? So 9 times out of 10, as when you go into the 17 Alpha, they've already looked at your background. Part of it is your background. Did you have an EE degree, electrical engineering degree? Do you have a ham license? There's all kinds of things that can go into that, right? And so if you want to be considered for that, one, you can put your name up and they can look at your packet. Two is they're going to look at your packet anyways to assess you if they think that you're the person that needs to go be that 17 Bravo. And then you'll get notified while you're in that course, while you're in the Alpha course that you're going to go for 17 Bravo, right? But there's also implications after that too, right? So we don't always have a 17 Bravo course that directly lines up with the end of your 17 Alpha course, right? So then you might be stuck in the cyber training battalion for a couple of weeks, couple of months, something like that, before you get to go be a 17 Bravo. So does that get after your question?
And just to caveat that real quick, you can also get a hold of the Office of Human Cyber, the Officers Division, and they can provide additional details, and especially if there's a packet associated, they can get it to you. The requirements.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is there a grade restriction on going from 17 Alpha to 17 Bravo? So let's say like you're a lieutenant colonel or colonel, 17 Alpha, and you want to switch over to Bravo. Can you do that?
I'm sorry to say I don't have that answer, but if you leave your name with me, I can get you that answer. I do know that we've had Bravos come in as majors. Most likely what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have to go to SIUC first. Did you say going from being an Alpha to being a Bravo at a higher rank? So if you're a Bravo, if you're an Alpha going to be a Bravo, then you're probably pretty much a shoo-in if you wanted to be. I haven't heard of anybody being limited yet, but if you leave me your name, I'll find out for you. If you're coming from outside the branch, then you're going to have to go to what we called SIUC earlier, Cyber Operations Orientation Course. So that's basically for anybody who is I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it's called V-tipping. So anybody know what V-tipping means? What's the acronym anyway? Volunteer transfer something packet. So Roger, I just didn't know. I was trying to make sure that I explained all the acronyms. So you submit your VTIP packet. You'd have to go to SIUC. Then once you complete SIUC, which is basically becoming just a regular cyber officer, way back in the day, we called it a 17 X-ray. And then you would have to wind up going to EWQC. I don't believe they would let you go straight into EWQC without passing SIUC first.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for the officer? Yes, sir.
What's your throughput? How many students are you getting graduating from this course? These are possible classes. 17 Delta and 170.
Do we still have that slide in the deck? No? Okay. So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. Recently, we've recently reorganized the battalion. Originally, all of our AIT soldiers were in one company. They were in Bravo Company, which was the 17 Charlies and 17 Echoes. They were at 800 soldiers at a minimum. And we recently decided that we needed to break them into 2 companies. And I think going forward, for some reason, I think we're looking at clearing 1,000 for the Echoes. Is that right, Sergeant Major? Do you remember that slide? So I think for the Echoes, we're looking at 1,000. Remember, there's a significant amount of growth expected for the Echoes. But then I think we're sitting right around 700, 800 that's expected for the Charlies going forward. And there's several reasons for that, but it all has to do with the amount of throughput that the Army needs, plus what the Army thinks that we can train on a regular basis, which does include our retreads, our people that want to come from being 11 Bravo, want to be 19 Delta, all those people. We have to make sure that we have spots in there for them to be able to come over and reclass as well.
Yeah, from what I can tell, our attrition rate isn't very high anymore since we revamped all the courses, so.
Yes, sir.
So, since you said the attrition rate fell, what is the plan to keep retention? Because this is, for specifically like 17 Alpha or in Delta now, these are huge things you can use in the civilian sector. If you get all this training, finish 2 years, you gotta get 4 left, you get sniped by government or just one of the bigger people. So what's the plan to keep officers inside of them once they get all this training?
Also not an answer that I have for you, sir. I primarily focus on the training and education side. I wouldn't be able to have an answer, but I'll restate the question for everybody else. The question was relative to retaining our officer cohort, our 17 Alphas, Bravos, and Deltas, once they get this significant amount of training and they've met their service remaining requirement, their obligation. What do we have that's going to keep them in? That unfortunately not an answer that I have. Money and talent management. That's the general mantra. The question. That's always the question, right? Any other questions relative to any of the? Yes, sir. What's the need?
The Army's need, do they have a need? You know, obviously for the warrant officers, there's always a need for Charlie, but on the officer side, the level of need that the Army has.
That kind of spins off of that question. We do have a significant need for our officers, and the reason being is because we do have a high attrition rate. They meet their service obligation, depending upon how they came into the branch, right? So obviously we have people that go green to gold. We have people that come from different scholarships, West Point, any of the academies, and they come in and they do they get their training and they go forth and do their time and they decide to get out. So we do have a significant attrition rate. So we're always looking for people to come in, but what we need also is for people to come in to stay. I mean, you look at the training that they get. They're not making as significant amount of money on paper as what their civilian counterpart might be making. However, I would also put in the plug that no other organization on the face of the earth that I'm aware of has the same job security, has the same medical benefits, housing benefits that the Army provides, other than other DoD organizations. So it's not completely an apples to apples situation. And then there's also the aspect of serving this great nation of ours, right? We got to keep that going too. So, if you could specifically drill down on specifically what you're asking about the need. You answered that question, right? Okay, or I answered that question. No. Yeah. All right. So, I think that's really the summation. I mean, we need people to come in. We want people to come in. We give you plenty of training, right? You know, there's a certain amount of loyalty that we would appreciate after getting that training to stay a significant amount of time. I don't mean to say that you're disloyal if you don't stay longer than your obligation. I'm just saying that it would help us out. It would help the nation out, right?
To caveat some of that, so looking at service remaining requirements, right? So if you attend training, we're actually looking at applying those, ADSOs and of course money, talent management. We're trying to develop our leaders, right? Expectation management. There's a lot of that goes into it, because education part of it. So let's say you're a captain, right? You get BAH, you get health, you get 30 days of leave a year, like more than any civilian sector job, right? So some very few companies provide a lot of very good benefits, right? Very, very limited few. So you get a lot of money. You just got to do the research to see how much you need to make on the outside. So a lot of people just don't do it. They just say, my quality of life isn't the greatest. So it's a very knee-jerk thing instead of thinking through it. So us as NCOs and peers need to talk. It's part of the leadership part, right? So building that leadership across the force is going to help with retention as well, I believe. So.
Any other training-related questions I can answer? Yes, sir.
So I'm a reserve warrant officer. I just completed the 5 Sierra course.
You said 255 Sierra, sir?
So how would that, what would the process be for me to transfer into the 170 Alpha?
So his
Be
question.
tech-
Oh, okay, so they specifically asked that I repeat all questions into the mic so that everybody hears it right. So the question was that he is a National Guardsman, 255 Sierra, just graduated. What is the path for him to be able to come in to be a 170 Alpha? Is that the blanket summation? So. So I'm with you. So understand. So what would need to happen is one, you would have to submit a packet, be accepted, to come to 170 Alpha training. And at the same time, you would submit your course credit review packet. If I were you, given the amount of training that you do have, then we could be able to pull the POI that's relative to that particular training, and we could try to do a course credit review between the 255 Sierra, the 170 Alpha, and see what exactly it is that you need. Obviously, the course credit review board is actually ran by Mr. Plotz's office back there in the, well, actually, it's OCC, not Mr. Plotz. Yep, not Mr. Plotz is different. They work in the same office, so I'm sorry. So that's actually ran by Mr. Beauvais, part of Mr. Beauvais' team. He was the civilian that was sitting back in the corner in front of where Mr. Plotz is. And there's also Lieutenant Colonel Pena. Is it Carlos?
Yeah.
I think it's Carlos. Lieutenant Colonel Carlos Pena. He's in that office as well, and they're the ones that manage it. We just provide soldiers, to sit on the panel and provide our input. But ultimately, it's their prerogative to accept our input, if that makes sense.
I know we had a question over here. You still have it, sir? No? Okay.
Nope. Any other questions I can answer for you? I think next slide, and that should be you, right?
Oh, yeah, geographical locations. So cyberspace in the military, right? So cyberspace operations consist of multiple teams in the military. So the teams take form of NMTs, NSTs, CMTs, CSTs, and CPTs, right? For the cyberspace operations part of it. So each, NMT, NST, they have a specific focus, a lot of nation-state stuff, right? The CMT, CST provide support to the combatant commands, right? And then the CPTs, focus on protecting the DODIN. Each team generally consists of 39 people per team, right? So there's multiple teams. I can't remember the exact number of teams that are across each one, but there's a multitude of teams. But each team consists of roughly 39 people. These are the active component duty locations. So with the ever-growing, cyber component, the Army has a demand. So we're building out MDEV, so multi-domain effects battalions across the Army, right? So majority of it will be like Echo 17 Echo, 170 Bravo, 17 Bravo, some 17 Charlie demand, and they'll be going to locations like JBLM, Washington. They'll be going to Wiesbaden, Germany, Fort Wainwright, Alaska, Fort Bragg, and Hawaii. So those are the MDEB locations that we're currently expanding to. I think it's 3 out of the 5 are online right now. So, like I said, we're expanding pretty significantly to get the cyber as a whole out to the rest of the Army. For the big 4 for the 17 Charlies right now is Maryland, Georgia, Hawaii, and Texas. Reserve component. For units, they're across the nation. Let's see, they have 18 locations which have cyber units, and they focus on CPT missions across the nation. And National Guard units, they have 24 states have National Guard units, again, focusing on a lot of cyber protection. They do more of the full spectrum of cyber. I don't know if they have Echoes, but I know they have a lot of Charlies and 17 Alphas.
So they do have a lot of Charlies. I believe Echoes are coming online soon, within the next couple of years, right? I think they're supposed to be trying to get some Echoes. But one thing that's of note is that while it shows them only, like say right here for California, California covers a significant area. They take people from other states. You would just have to travel to that location if that's what you're interested in order to be able to complete National Guard or Reserve. So you just travel to that unit to be part of that CPT. And then something else that I found out that was really cool not too long ago is the National Guard can actually be activated by the governor, and then the governor can assign them whatever authorities that they need in order to be able to do their mission. Sometimes their missions don't meet Title 32 or Title 10 requirements, but the governor can choose to let's say, activate them under law enforcement if that's what he deems or she deems that they need to do. Pretty cool mission set.
Right, and like I said, they also, like I said, focus on both OCO and DECO side of the house. I believe that's all we have. And any questions? No. So we have a booth here. It's on the ground level by the registration booth. If you have additional questions, if you want to talk about something specific, I know the 255, sir. We have Colonel Pena. I know he was there recently. He can talk to you about some of the requirements. And we have a chief right there. She can talk to you as well. She works at the Office of Cyber Warrant Division, so she has additional information as well for the warrant officers. And that's all I have. That's all we have. Yep. Are you okay?
The online, distance learning, and it's a pain in the butt. So I don't know if you want to be able to make the time frame. That's my main priority right now.
What's your most right now?
It's 25 hours.
Oh, you're 25 alpha. Okay.
But I work at Army Cyber, so I figure
Okay.
I have to fly all the way to Miami to do my reserve duty from here, so it's a pain in the butt.
All right, what's your email? You just want, it might be easier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I send the slides myself. I was like, just in case we don't have it, I can send it to them. So you're gonna like to have the slides. Yeah. That's where I just came from, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What section?
I was the J3 and CIC.
J3?
Yeah.
What's J3 5?
Yeah. Oh, Little's not there anymore?
No.
Okay, yeah. No point there, yeah. He used to be the CG's XO.
Also, something else. I have a younger brother who's been trying to switch to 17. So I went with your Nelson page and Fortitude, and I told him whoever contact person is, he said he can call me and no one answer the return call.
So is he enlisted officer?
No, he's lieutenant right now.
Okay. Yeah, like,
Is your page, what's the 17 page updated?
on the CCOE side or the Mill Street side? Yeah, like, because the office, they use that.
Send it to him because he wanted to do the beat test. He said he calls so many times in the
Have him email. Yeah, have him email. I don't have the number for the officer contact me, and I can get them a number as well. So
I don't know how Alpha is right now, because I think the VP can also, I'm not sure how that works.
yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the officer side. Like we have an officer sitting and a civilian sitting at the desk right now, and they know more of the information on the officer side. Like because I focus on the enlisted. So unless Mr. Foster knows anything about the officer side, we tipping. So yeah, your brother, right?
So our officer division stays on the road. So our officer division really hasn't been anybody over there.
What was it? Was that Major Forbes?
So, well,
Or, yeah.
so Mr. Williams, Ordeal, they've been up to the house.
He can email them. If he uses the email, they'll definitely get back to him. Because you cross them, they both have access to it.
He does not have a cyber background, does that matter?
Yes. If he doesn't have an IT/cyber background or a relevant STEM degree, it's going to significantly reduce his chance of being over.
We don't do a lot of people for officers, most of our officers are direct commission service one.
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking
Yeah. And I believe Georgia had a cyber component in Atlanta. If you transfer up as well. If you get accepted and transfer up, right?
I spoke to one of that was named gentleman.
Major Kang? Major Forbes? You gotta go through proponent process. Yeah, should have sent them already. So. All right. Thanks. Well, but if it's very structured, like if it's not structured, I'm fine. If I can just, hey, you have questions, I can talk to questions, right? Yeah, have a conversation, exactly. For me, I'm like, blah, 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 like, I'm not good at that stuff. Like, actual recruiting events, hey, you come, like sitting at the desk. Hey, what about this? All day. I'm good. I'll talk your ear off. Whatever. But yeah, I don't know it. But this person knows it. Hey, you can get funding from me. Okay? That's
So you any push-ups? That's that one you know at any point? Say anything on
Is this your machine or one they have here? I wonder if we're supposed to. So can you cable up to this thing as is, or?
I could just use it, yeah.
Or you wanna just put a, you got a memory stick?
I can download it from the.
I don't know.
Let's see, we got internet?